Welcome to the REAL Autism Podcast. Real as in relevant, effective, actionable living strategies and solutions for a better quality of life. Join your host, Alicia Gaucher Page, for some real conversations. Sponsored by J. Cole Autism Coaching.
I was able to get people to come around, but it's not easy. And, to that point, you have to be very thick-skinned. I remember my cousin would say, I don't think I could do that, and that's definitely understandable. And that is, understandable and everything, but I always just strongly encourage people to, what is your child going to do when you leave? It's all the different things, what you're going to put in place when you're not here. And you want them to be able to function without you.
So you bring up a good point. And I like to refer to it as, because I'm that Leo trait, July 24th, shout out to the Leos. And so Jessica had to keep me calm several days. Because for me, there's 0 and then there's 100. And there's really no in between. So if you make me mad, I'm going for the jugular. And I'm very much a professional. I work in, corporate environment, PMO experience, but like any other mother, I'm a mother bear. So what I realized was that although I felt like I wasn't the smartest person as it related to the condition of autism, I was the smartest person as it related to knowing my children and knowing my child. And there was no professional out there that could tell me that. But I also realized, which is the reason why I established J. Cole Advocacy, the reason why I established J. Cole Autism Coaching, is that a lot of professionals, school teachers, therapists, they study these conditions and their heart is there and they read it in the book, and theoretically, they know what they're supposed to do. But in terms of practical application, that's a totally different beast, which is why, my dream was to do what I'm doing now and to share these practical applications. And so, Audrey, how did you deal with, because what I had to realize, I used to associate ignorance with
not being smart.
Like it was on purpose. And a lot of times ignorance is not on purpose. It's really what, if you look it up, it's not knowing, right? So Audrey, how did you deal with some of the ignorance that you would face without going to 100? Or did you go to 100?
Yeah, I'm more the cool, calm, collected one. And sometimes I think maybe a bit too passive. But when it came to mine, I was just like, you know what? First day of school, well, even at open house, I'm going in there. I'm like, now look, I could tell what kind of teacher we need and what kind after a couple of days or maybe one day we had. And I would just let them know. And I had advocates in my corner that would go to my IEPs with me and tell me, oh, no, they should be able to do this. No, you're right. He has to be here. Y'all have to have him here. And I wasn't naive to the fact that he should be in a general population, with this classroom settings or whatever. But I also knew that they had to manage some things and I should not be up there every day. And trust and believe, it was a lot of suspensions. I used to say I could wallpaper my bathroom with all of those pink papers they gave us or what have you. But but I would go in most of the time with the open mind, and but it was a pain point. I was like, let me see who this teacher is, who this parapro is, and see how they're gonna be in his corner. And a lot of them were, but then I had those that I could remember that were like, you know what, we're not gonna be able to handle this. We're not gonna be able to deal with this. And I would go in with my advocate and get the things done that needed to be done, or have him removed to a different room.
So you actually had an advocate, like another?
Yeah, one of my aunt, I was mentioning my aunt who worked in Atlanta Public Schools for many, many years as a special needs administrator and teacher at one time. And then she had a good close friend who would actually come with me to the IEPs and be like, no, 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 this is not supposed to happen. This is, even though it was a different district outside of Cobb, I needed that because all of these rights and things like that. That's how I found out about the Laurel Heights program, because I knew it had to be some kind of something out there that could help us. And it was like many, many, many years, nobody would tell me. It would just kind of be like pushed under the rug, the suspensions or I sitting in the office trying to, have meetings to figure out what we could do or what have you. But yeah, I had the advocates that were with me at the IEPs, and even outside of that, they became really good family friends, and along with his caregivers, just letting me know, no, this is what you should be doing. This is what you can accept. He doesn't have to be, just kicked to the curb because or whatever that he did. But yeah, that piece right there was a true pain point.
Yeah,
You
and
really
for me,
see the. I'm sorry, Jessica. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, for me, I was like, I had, they probably thought I was an advocate, but I also did. I had my silent advocates to the teachers, because one of the things that I realized with the teachers were, the leadership, the teacher leadership from the school would tell them one thing, but then would only they would only give you so much as a parent. Like, you had to ask, the parent, you had to ask for it. So I had an inside liking with a teacher on the inside that would say, listen, I can't say this, but you can say this. And so I built my village and my advocacy outside. And so I would, I learned how to play the game.
Yep.
It's
Work
like
the system.
I needed to work the system, because it was that I knew that they I needed them to know that, listen, I'm on y'all side. It's not me against y'all. I want us all to be successful.
Yep.
But these are the things that I'm expecting. And so it's just like being on, having that, building that coalition, from the inside. Like, I would call the county autism specialist at the time and say, look, I need this. That's like, I need for you to come in. And a lot of times they wouldn't even know that I had already talked to her, but she was calling the school, coming to do a visit, and then giving me feedback on what was going on. And so it's being that, getting, whether or not you being your own advocate and getting the resources, or having an outside advocate coming in with you, whatever you need to do for your child to be successful, then that's what you got to do.
So important. Yeah.
So what do you all think? I know your kids are 31 now, so I'm digging deep in the crates in terms of where you were back then. But what do you think, or what do you wish you would have had back then that would have made your journey a little easier to navigate? And I'll give y'all a moment to think about it.
That's a good question. You're thinking about back then, huh, Audrey?
Because, things evolve, right? So a lot of maybe what parents who are just now getting diagnoses now, their experience may be different, or it may be the same. So I'm looking for you all to share with the listeners some shortcuts.
Yeah.
What do you wish you would have known, and how would you have gone about, I guess, getting the information? Because what I'm finding along this journey is, listen, don't expect people to come to you and just give it to you. Right. Case in point, Jasmine is 22. She had behaviors. I was one of those people that said, oh, she's going to go to the day program. And when we went to the day program, because she came out of the school system with a one-on-one parapro for the last 5 or 6 years, a lot of these day programs don't have the funds to go out and hire somebody that would be just Jasmine's one-on-one. And here I am doing a podcast, pretty diligent about finding out information. And I go to a transitional fair, meet one of the vendors, and they say, oh, well, it's something called the exceptional rate, where if you go to a day program, they can provide the behavior information, all of this paperwork to the regional office with DBHDD, and they can ask for an exceptional rate And then the
Mm-hmm.
region provides funding to that day program to hire that one-on-one.
Yeah.
No
Mm-hmm.
one
Had ever.
had volunteered to give me the information.
Right.
Yeah.
My coordinator, no shade, great person in case she sees this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, but nobody mentioned it to me in my one-on-one.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what
I
I was
think
thinking.
yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. I, as I think about J. Cole advocacy, right, and like having that one, thing. One of the things that's opened my eyes is that my world was on one end of the spectrum. Your world, Alicia's on another end of the
Different.
spectrum,
Right.
and Audrey, yours is kind of like in the middle. And the things that I did not have or didn't know, like when I reach out, it's like I didn't have a whole lot of stuff about kids on the high end of the spectrum, like how to for them to navigate within the typical world and be able to do all the things that they needed to do. And I also didn't have um, enough information of what I could have gotten financially, because the government come for the middle class. We don't qualify for jack, and I didn't know whether or not Jordan qualified or nothing. So I probably left a lot of money on the table, not getting paid for services for Jordan. So I wish I would have had like a place that had at least where all the resources were. Now, one thing I did get to was I found parent to parent, um, so parent to parent of Georgia, where they would match me up with another parent. But by the time I found them, I was being the coaching parent, not the getting support, because they couldn't find
Right.
anybody
Being
that was,
coached.
yeah, instead of being coach. But I think that those things, bringing all of that one area of resources and knowledge of the what you're entitled to financially, what your child is entitled to, what all of the different planning goals, how to navigate on the different roads. I wish that was there. I wish
That's
that was
it.
there, and it wasn't.
That's
What about you?
that's exactly what I wrote down. Resources.
Yeah.
I mean, just
I remember that from our previous conversation. You were like resources.
yeah, we just need resources and information and support groups. I believe that the like-minded community can be tremendously supportive. Other
Mm-hmm.
parents who could understand that your child wasn't potty trained at 4, or you know just had challenges with reading or math, or would get frustrated and throw a lamp, whatever it could be. Just the like-minded community and the support. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember having that,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like,
Yeah.
again, leaning on my family and my great friends who would like, you know what, and of course my caregiver that I had, um and just say, you know what, you need some respite, go out to dinner, or go
Mm-hmm.
even on a weekend trip or whatever. But yeah, the resources were lacking, and if hindsight is that is what I needed, like people to just say,
Mm-hmm.
what did you know about this? What did you know about that? And um, you know, that that's just the thing that sticks out right now.
Yeah.
The
And,
resource.
and even more so the knowledge, wishing that the school, maybe like that I've had, but even like the school system, when you think about like us as three African American women, what I found was, there are more where our kids would be targeted, not would be misdiagnosed and have behavioral issue. They would claim, want to claim that it's behavioral issues instead of what the real diagnosis was. And so we didn't even have, having people that share not only the same diagnosis, but even share, the same cultural type differences, is very important, in that aspect, so that they understand what the different cultural stuff of, and we understand together and collectively, what is it that we need to do to support our children.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Um,
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I know you guys had different journeys, because what I heard you say, Jessica, was you wanted Jordan in mainstream and bring the therapist into the classroom. And then Audrey, what I heard you say was you knew it wouldn't necessarily be maybe the right fit. You didn't use those words, but the right fit for him to be mainstream, but be in special education. So Audrey, from your perspective, starting out from your journey and him being in the special education program, talk a little bit about that and what were the good, bad, and ugly of that scenario.
Yeah, and that just kind of goes back to who the teacher that he was in the classroom with. Some of them were, we would go in and like, okay, are you here for the summers and the days off, or are you really a caring, nurturing teacher who, is going to have my child's best interest? And so, yeah, it would depend on the teacher. I guess I could just tell. And if they were, you know, extremely patient, and very good at the communication with me regardless of what was going on, then I knew that that was going to be a good fit. If they were blowing up my phone every day all day and having him suspended, for the behaviors, then I knew this was going to be a rough little ride here if we didn't get him somewhere else, or some kind of meeting to find out what the solutions could be. So I think oh goodness, I'm losing my train of thought here, Alicia. But as far as our experience with the special needs, and having the IEPs, um I definitely could have seen some room for improvement. A lot of times I think it was a lot of babysitting, you know, um, the learning piece, a mom would get frustrated. So I think they would just kind of keep him calm and say, well, here, you could do this some years in some classes. But I, I wasn't one of those parents that was in like denial. Like I knew that he was going to be in there cutting up in a huge distraction if he was
Yeah.
in the mainstream classroom. So, but as far as his biggest fan and advocate, I would just stay on the teachers as much as I could and be an involved parent and just kind of get in there and do what I had to do to be his, advocate when I know he wouldn't be able to, speak for himself over the years.
Jessica, what was your experience like with more of the mainstream and bringing the therapist into the classroom?
Yeah. Well, we did that from about kindergarten to third grade. And then at third grade they came in and said, based on how this is going, now it's the time. We had a conversation. It's like now it's the time where we need to pull him out from, and do therapy separately. But then we would collaborate um on how to provide things. So I'm like, well, how will he learn social skills if he's not with, he would be in the regular classroom. They pull him out for speech. They would pull him out for occupational therapy. Um, but social skills, they would talk about, and this is where it's like working with them to say it's okay, because they wanted to do, they trying to figure out how to do social skills with trying to keep Jordan's diagnosis private under law, right? For confidential. I had
Right.
to give them permission to say it's okay, because what they would do, they would establish a buddy group, a social skills group with kids, and they would get kids from the other classes, and would have a small group for him to learn. And I had to be willing to them to give them permission so they could tell the other parents what they were doing. And so working with them across through the years and through the mainstream, through elementary school, that worked through elementary school, middle school, elementary school, he had a parapro in the classroom with him till fifth grade. By the time he got to middle school, he didn't need the parapro in the class. And because he was intellectually advanced, um, in testing, then he was in the honors classes in middle school, but we had to pick which classes that he had, and then and be strategic about how we arrange the classrooms, and being, and functioning with the honors kids, circling, for middle school and high school. That was the same thing. So at each level, the support was there, working, but I had to work very closely with the case manager, and work very closely with the selection of teachers that were going to be them. But the blessing was that he was in the honors classes. So in the honors classes, you had more, better, unfortunately, better behaved kids. So he learned from, he didn't learn from, he wasn't around a group that would negatively influence him. So that worked out well, but it was rough, because you would come across, sometimes we wouldn't know from the teachers if if it was the diagnosis, or was it just middle school craziness, about what he was doing. And high school, I was concerned, because I went to visit the high school to see whether or not I wanted him there. And when I'd see some of them, walking down with the boys with the pants below their butt, and I'm like, oh no, he cannot come here. I just can't. But they assured me, like, nope, he's gonna be in all honors classes. He's not gonna see that. He's gonna be in the band. He's gonna make friends before that part. So that was a challenge. And then working with parents of kids who that he would get attached to. I became really good friends with a lady whose daughter, who I met in middle school. And one day I remembered, I was like, Cindy, how did we meet? She's like, you came up to me and apologized for Jordan, of how Jordan was treating my daughter, and thanked me because how she was treating him so well. So her name is Chandler, and Chandler in sixth grade was just the sweetest thing. Protected Jordan in school and everything, and the teachers and the case manager would tell me that Chandler would help Jordan, and they pointed her mother out to me one day, and I went up to her and I thanked her for her daughter being so nice and kind. And it just turned out that we were on field trips together. They went through high school together, so the teachers helped me meet parents who had the children who were, that I could surround Jordan with, and just helped me take and challenge, be able to help him learn more by introducing me to other people, and ensuring that Jordan was being taken care of by his peers, and by the teachers. So it was a really good situation.
Different, as you all can hear and see, different journeys, but they all lead to a success story. So as we wrap up, I would just ask each one of you, in your elevator speech, closing comments, what advice would you give to a parent starting out on this journey? Audrey, what about you?
Yeah, I'm circling back to my word patience. My son is the most loving, affectionate. He's definitely his mama's boy. But just I do a lot of praying and leaning on the Lord for this, because I know it has been a struggle, and it is not for the meek. It ain't for no punks. It's
No punks allowed.
this is the
No,
real deal
no.
here. And but yeah, lean on your support. Um, just and just realize that comparison is the thief of joy, And it took me a long time to realize that. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I still snatch back on it. It's just humanity to, want the very best for your children. And I think about, as I age, they're aging and what's going to happen. But I do a lot of leaning on my prayer and my support, and just really, really practice the patience and push them. One thing about a mind, I underestimate him and he will blow my mind every time. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
don't underestimate them, because some of the things I can go on that he does now, I'm like, wow. From
Mm-hmm.
his memory, like, remember we used to live over here when we driving by Cumberland Mall where he lived when he was 2. And I'm like, how do you remember that stuff? And he,
I don't even remember
right.
stuff from when I was
And he
two.
I know,
always wants
right?
to go down memory lane with people like, hey, Mommy, you had a Delta event. Do they remember me when I was 4? Did they hold me? Did they change my diaper? So it's like, you don't tell anybody on the spectrum don't repeat, because that's what they do. They repeat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't underestimate them, and just have that patience. And as much as you
Mm-hmm.
can, lean on your support system. When people say they understand and it's okay, like my sister-in-law that y'all know, April, in the chapter,
I'm thankful.
yes, she's like, I got this. Go ahead, and
Go sit down somewhere.
I got,
You in the
Mm-hmm.
way.
and know that it's okay, because sometimes it could be like, oh, I don't want him to do that at anybody's house, or I didn't, know that it is okay, and people genuinely care and understand and want to support you and give you, the respite that you need, or just they just understand and they get it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my.
And as we bring Jessica up to give her advice, I'll just throw in this funny. Jasmine went over to Jessica's house, and I guess she was trying to help Aunt Jessica go ahead and get started with her renovation. Because we went in the bathroom, and so the little wallpaper, it was starting to unpeel because it had probably been there for a while. Jasmine went on ahead and took that
Oh,
down.
They just
same
just took
thing
it,
happened
just
in
took
my
it
kitchen.
down.
Same thing happened in my kitchen.
Jasmine's last like, okay, Jasmine, it's
Before
really
my
time for me
She
to
was,
before
thank.
my remodel.
she was
I was
just
like,
trying
thank
to
you for
tell
telling
Aunt
me.
Jessica, it's
She's just,
time for you to get this
it's time to
wallpaper.
time.
It's
She was
already
helping
peeled
you
off.
out.
Exactly.
She was helping you out.
Exactly.
I hope you thank her for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say, I agree with the patience. I would say you're just starting out. Number one, when you first hear, it is okay to grieve. This journey is not what you planned, and it's okay. Look up. I was telling, I was talking about that. Look up the poem "Welcome to Holland." It's an eye opener of difference about. It's not where you had started your journey. It's not where you thought you were going to be, but you in a place that you wouldn't have imagined how many other people would have been in your world. I am still close friends today with Jordan's kindergarten teacher.
Wow.
She um she changed her master's degree to be specialized in special education after having Jordan in her kindergarten
Wow.
class. Um, you it be willing to accept the village, be willing to share your story, because people can't help you if you are too afraid to share what you're going through. Jordan, I would not have been able to. Jordan plays soccer, and I remember one time I walked up and I had this agreement with the coaches that if he would start using his hands, because soccer you can't use hands, if he would start using his hands, I would wait for the coach to take him out. I walked up there and I automatically saw Jordan hitting the people, and I was like, oh no, I got to take him out. And the parents from the same team said he can't. I was like, why? And he said, because they don't have enough kids. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Um, I was like, I have this, I was telling him my story. I have this agreement. He's, on the spectrum. He don't understand. And another parent sitting there who I didn't know, she's like, oh, he's okay. because the child he hit is our child. Our child gonna be fine. And the coach, the referee there said, "Oh, your child is fine. My child is also on the spectrum, and he wouldn't even be able to come out here." So, it's like I wouldn't have known. I immediately just calm. So
Yeah.
you just and then the other thing is, if let your child try. Don't estimate the part of don't estimate. Let him try what they want to do. Jordan did he did clarinet in high school. He wanted to do geography. He ended up winning the geography, competing on a state level for geography. He got to high school. He marched in the inaugural parade for President Obama with the band. One day he came and told me he was going to be on he was going to do a poetry slam and wanted me to sign. I was like, this boy's going to embarrass himself. But I signed, let him audition. I was like, this boy is not going to make the audition. And then one day he tells me, oh, I'm going to be in it. I get there, and he literally brings the house down because he's doing Lin-Manuel's opening ceremony of Hamilton, because the American history teacher had been playing in the classrooms, and all these kids have memorized this thing, and there's Jordan on the stage, they're cheering him.
Wow.
And then, so he went on to, he has met President Clinton. He has met different people by not being shy to do that. He went on to Jackson State to get a meteorology degree. And he got Mississippi State. He got a communications degree.
Wow.
And now he is being 6 years in Austin, Texas, as a TV meteorologist, which has always been his dream since he was a baby. And he joined Greek life. His daddy was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, and he just celebrated his 1 year of being a Kappa. So a TV station interviewed us one time, and they said, I was like, he is the most socially delayed child I've ever met in my life. But that is because of the village. So, as a parent, I had to, if he wanted to do it, I needed to, within, of course, some boundaries, let him try it and let him be himself. And as I said before, don't let your own fear and emotions dictate what he's doing, what that child is doing. That's the important thing.
For me, I would say, as a parent, continue to support, but get out of the way of progress.
Exactly.
Continue
That's
support,
a good way to do it.
Yep,
But get out of the way.
Get out of the way of progress.
Yep.
All right. Because Alicia, I continue to support.
A lot of the times it's the codependency, right? Like Audrey said earlier, we trying to go. We got to be somewhere on time. I ain't got time to wait for them to tie their shoes. I don't have time for them to try to get this zipper. Continue to support, provide guidance, but get out of the way of progress.
Right.
That's my
and it doesn't end.
statement.
Yeah,
That's your statement.
Yeah.
That's right. And it doesn't end. We're gonna be doing it for forever. Still doing it now. But yes, I love that statement.
Yeah,
Drop the mic.
Get out of the way. That part right there.
You know what? I had plenty of other things to talk to you about, but what that tells me is we got to do a part 2. So I've gotten y'all all warmed up, ready to go, well-oiled machine. So I think the next time we come back, I really want to talk to you more about the transitional planning, how you prepared them for independence, what effect that had on you to know that now you got to let them out into the world, and what effect it had on them. So I want to thank both of you for joining the Real Autism Podcast, where we share relevant, effective, actionable living strategies and solutions. I love both of you, and I appreciate the knowledge that you dropped today. And everybody, we will see you next time. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for tuning in to the Real Autism Podcast with Alicia Gaucher Page. we'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsors of this episode. J. Cole Autism Coaching, helping caregivers navigate to a better quality of life. AGP Organizational Coaching, helping people develop effective strategies, systems, and solutions to organize information. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or just visit us at jcoleadvocacy.com.